Hello, how you doing? My name is Parris Gunn, and this is my first official attempt at my podcast journey. The reason why I've even started this podcast is because most recently my grandmother passed away right before my birthday, right before our anniversary. And in dealing with the loss of my grandmother, I came to realize that there's always that one person, or maybe you're lucky enough to have more than one, but there's at least one person in your life that holds all your secrets, that you tell all the things to, good, bad, otherwise. And that person never judges you. They never look down on you. They're always trying to help you be the better version of you that you can be. And that's what my grandmother was for me. And at her funeral service, she was like that for a lot of people. And so while I was dealing with the loss of her and how would I move on, or not so much as move on, but how would I deal with not having that person to do that kind of stuff with? You never really think about it until after it's already happened. And in sharing my story with other family members and friends, I found out that a lot of people don't have that. And it's a very select few that do have that one person that they can always go to, that they can always talk to, that they can tell the worst things that they ever done, and that person never judges them. A lot of people don't have that. And in my journey, I'm also a streamer. And of course, most of you that are coming here are coming from the family gaming community where myself, my wife, and my two kids are both streamers on the same platform. Probably later on in this podcast journey, I will also give a reason why we even started that and how that came to be. But even in that journey, I found a lot of people coming to the channel and talking about, different things that they had going on in their lives. There were kids that were coming to the channel that were talking about depression and how they were lonely, or their parents were getting a divorce, or they don't really like living with their dad. They don't like living with their mom. They're living with their grandparents. They're living with other family members. And over the years of me streaming, I've heard these stories in the chats a lot from younger people, but also in the chat, because I'm a disabled veteran and my wife is a primary care provider. I also had people coming into the chats and the live streams asking me, how do I deal with my depression? Because I've struggled with depression over the years, for some years now, on and off. And I would be talking to them about those experiences and how I dealt with some of that stuff. Then I would have people come into the chat asking my wife, how does she deal with being a primary care provider to a disabled veteran that suffers from PTSD and stuff? And she would be giving her advice, or what she does to deal with me and deal with the stuff that she does to deal with as a mother, as the oldest of her family, as a career woman. And so the stream became more than just us playing video games. It was people interacting and talking about different stuff and conversations. Then I had people ask me, how do I deal with my kids and my mood swings, and how do they cope with life under the pressures of a dad who's, struggling here and there. And so after my grandmother passed, I was talking to my wife and some other close friends of the community, and I was telling them that I was thinking about starting a podcast. And we haven't come up with a name just yet, but by the time this starts to, or by the time I post this and it starts to launch and the viewer, start to see it, all that stuff will be edged out. But what we're trying to do is create a podcast where people can talk about some of the struggles that they've had and what tools they use to get by, become better. Do they still struggle with it? And as I've been networking and talking to some of the people from the community, we have a lot of different topics. We have infidelity, we have struggles in marriages, religion, we have how to take care of kids, being a good father. We have a lot of black males that want to talk about, really being in their kids' lives. We have people who are trying to be in their kids' lives, but the women won't let them for whatever the different reasons are. We have women who are dealing with and taking care of kids by themselves because the dude didn't want to be involved. How do they cope with some of those things, and how have they been able to manage to move on? Or maybe they're still stuck in it and they're looking for advice. I'm trying to create not so much as another platform, but another way of communicating with the community, so to speak, about different tools that we can use. I myself, because they made sure that I was supposed to say this, I'm not a professional by any means of the word. But what I can say is I have been in therapy since 2004, maybe 2005, 2004, I believe. From then until now, I've been in therapy on a consistent basis at the least twice a week. That's at the least. I've been in therapy where I've been in 4 times for the week. Different therapy sessions, which I will get into later on in the podcast journey. But I have been in marriage counseling, anger management, um, social counseling. How do I deal with being outside and interactive with all the things that I have going on? How to better communicate with my kids. I've been in counseling nonstop. So the experience that I have is simply because I've been in it. I've been sitting in the sessions. I've been online in the sessions. I think the longest break I've ever had was probably during the coronavirus because there were so many sessions going on, but there weren't a lot of counselors. So that was probably my hardest time. But I was using the tools that I had been given all the way up until that point. And so, as I've been talking to my friends and family members, and my wife and the kids came up with this idea. I thought about it, but you still have to iron some stuff out. So I was talking to the wife, and she said that would be really nice since I'm already doing it in the stream. But that's while I'm playing video games and doing all that kind of stuff. And so, you're trying to shoot people and play basketball and do whatever the game is doing, but you're reading the chat and trying to engage in those conversations on there. Once the stream is done, sometimes so is the conversation in the chat. What I've done is I'm now moving that more so to the side where we can engage one-on-one in the full conversation of what we're talking about or the topic. And with that being said, we're not distracted by the video game or the other people that's in the chat talking, and not so much as making jokes, because the community that I'm with, when they hear me talking about stuff like that, they'll chime in on their whatchamacallits. But remember, we're still playing video games and doing a bunch of stuff. So it's a secondary thought in the conversation because we're trying not to get killed in the game, or we're trying to win the game, or whatever's going on. This will be more strict because now it's just you and I and another person. So as I'm doing this, and you're also here at the ground stages. I don't have any of the stuff to make a podcast look like a podcast as I've been studying and researching. So I am doing the very minimal, hoping for good returns. And as this community starts to grow, I can then make it more professional, I guess. What's professional? The camera, microphone, 2 seats, I guess, and how we operate it. I have no idea. And just like I didn't have no idea when I was doing the streaming stuff, I kind of just play the video game and throw on the camera. Okay. And then me and my son would just do it. Then me and my daughter just did it. Then me and my wife just did it. It was just something that we just learned as we went. So I figured this would be the first attempt at, okay, so just get up and do it. I would record myself. I don't know how I sound when I'm not yelling and making a bunch of jokes on a video game, but I'm more serious. So this is my attempt to putting that together. I remember when I first came home from Iraq, my grandmother, my grandfather, and my uncle, they came and picked me up from the military base, and they were bringing me home. And I remember my grandmother, she made my grandfather sit in the front seat. My uncle drove, and my grandmother got into the back seat with me. And I remember she never asked me right when I got back what was happening over there, or what, like, she didn't ask me any questions about that. She was we were both sitting in the back seat, and she says, "How am I? How are you?" So I was looking, and I was like, "Man, I'm home. It's done and stuff like that." And I looked back out the window, and she asked me again. She says, "But how are you?" "Grandma, I'm all right. I'm okay." And I looked back out the window again because in my head I was still thinking about all the things that I had done, all the things that I had seen during the war. And I was still looking out the window, and I remember her touching my shoulder, and I can feel my body, even now when I'm speaking, I can feel my body almost about to burst out into tears. And so then I looked back, and she was just looking at me, and she said, "How are you?" And so before I could get the words out to tell her, whether it was going to be to tell her what stuff had happened or what stuff I had seen, what stuff I had done, I just told her I didn't know. And so she grabbed me by my head and put my head on her shoulder, as she used to do as when I was a child. And I'm grown now, I'm like 24 maybe. And I remember just crying myself to sleep on her shoulder. She just patted my cheek. And I remember for the next few years, the car ride from Georgia to Florida to her home, which was probably 6 to 7 hours maybe, was the most peace I had had in my life in probably 3 years. Like peace, where just like nothing's wrong, everything is okay, or everything is good. It was the car ride from Georgia to Florida on my grandmother's shoulder that just, it was the peace that I had been missing, the peace that I had been needing. And I wouldn't know peace like that again until probably 2 years after that, which I will also get into another story later on. But having that person, and sometimes, especially in the world that we live in today, some people don't have that. I'm not saying that I'm that person that everybody can just go to, but it feels like maybe somehow the Lord is just shifting my my template that way from the stuff that I've already been doing. I'm almost positive that as this podcast is going, no matter how far it goes, how short it is, I'm going to use it for the good that I think I can use it for. You'll hear from other people who I'll be interviewing and talking to. Some of those people may want to give all of themselves, and they may not want to be named so much in the podcast, and they won't be, because I want their secrets to be their secrets. They're going to give of themselves so that maybe we all can share and learn and figure out how to get through our problems that way. But they may not want to give their names or who they are, and we will definitely respect that in this podcast. And I realize that some people don't have that. And in the stories I've heard over my years, sometimes you just need somebody to listen, even if it's not they're giving you feedback. Because some people may not want feedback. They just, man, so much stuff is going on, and I just need somebody to talk to. But they don't have anybody to talk to. I'm hoping that somewhere along in this podcast, what I can do is people who comment or give their feedback about the podcast or the stories that we're going to be telling or the information in general. Maybe they decide that they would like to share. I'm going to see and put something in place so that they can share their stories, and maybe we can talk to them about whatever they have going on. People that's outside the community that are coming in at a brand new, like, man, listen, I'm dealing with this right now, and my old lady or my husband or my kids. And then we as a community, which is just like my family gaming community, can rally together and say, hey, why don't you try this? Or listen, this is what I've done and it's worked for me. And even at the very least, because I'm religious and I'm 7-day Adventist. So if that's a problem for you, then I'm sorry, but that's definitely who I am and what I represent. At the very least, you can find yourself a community of people who will, at least if they can't, if the advice is not working, or the stuff that they're saying that you can try, that you've already tried and it's not working, maybe what happens is you just rallied enough people to pray for your circumstance. Some people who actually care about what you have going on, even if you don't know them, that can at least say, hey, I'm going to take a minute out of my day, 30 seconds out of my day, 15 seconds out of my day, and pray for this person in their dilemma. No, there's not money that we can give out to help you enrich your life and do something like that. But the fact that you was able to share with us and we can help you in the information that we give back. And if none of that stuff works, at the very least, you gained whoever it is that you gained to say, hey, Lord, please help this person in their time of need. And for those who are religious, we understand that sometimes that's everything. My grandmother taught me that. I've seen it over the years. I've dealt with it over the years. I've also used it in my own life for my wife, for her family, for my kids, for my parents, for my grandparents, for my brothers and sisters. And in these podcasts, you will hear the stories of the people who not just used prayer, but also used information from other people like, hey, if you don't know how to do something and I've already done it, I can give you my recipe for what I did. Whether you just choose to use it or not is up to you. But if I at least give it to you, then you have another avenue. If my recipe doesn't work for you, then maybe we can come up with something together, because sometimes a person just needs another person to brainstorm with them. Like, man, this is what I got going on. I don't know how to fix it. If it's a problem that nobody from the community can help you with, that we can't find a way to, hey, let's brainstorm together. Let's give you somebody else that you can talk to figure out, hey, how do I figure this out? How I do it? We don't know. Let's figure it out together. Maybe that's something that you need. So this is the first attempt of me just trying to put something together. I have no idea how it's going to go, but I'm praying the Lord uses my information, my time, my resources to do something good for my community, for my friends, and hopefully for you, the listener. I don't know how I'm going to put this together right now at all. I just know it's an idea. And when I come up with these ideas, I usually brainstorm them with my wife and my kids, because they're always a part of it. They're going to be featured in these episodes, and my wife is also going to be my co-host. My kids also want to talk about their journeys, because they've had to deal with me and my struggles and how they've dealt with it as the kids that they are. You also hear from my brothers and sisters, my parents, who are professional marriage counselors, but they've been married for over 43 years. You'll hear from some of my good friends. You'll hear from some of the people in the video game community that are still playing video games and are professional streamers, but they also have had their own journeys and their own things in life, and they're going to share with us their life stories, so to speak, and how they are moved into being healed or being better people, or the struggles that they still deal with, so that you'll have some information maybe on the struggles that you're dealing with. This is my story and the way I feel like I can best, not so much as influence, but my best way of putting joy and happiness, I guess, back into the world. And I'm not trying to do it to the world. I'm trying to do it to you. And then hopefully you can do it to somebody else. I'm trying to bring joy to a few people at a time. Hopefully they'll be able to use that to branch out to somebody else. So this is your host. My name is Parris Gunn. I'm the king of the family gaming community, which features my wife, my son, and my daughter on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, now also Twitter, and Snapchat. I hope that you follow us with this journey. Make sure to follow and subscribe. Thank you for your time, and thank you for listening. Have a good day. Peace.